right. It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. Are there any public comments today?
No, there are not.
Okay. Let's start in for new business. And it looks like the first item is the City of Frankfort Internet Funding Agreement.
The City of Frankfort Internet Access Funding Agreement is attached for your review and approval. The agreement allows for $5,000 dedicated to help offset the cost of providing internet through the FCS FPS Internet Agreement. This goes back to when we set up the agreement with the Frankfort Plant Board that is going to cost about $18,000 over the course of the year. The city has graciously agreed to help offset that cost with this $5,000. The recommended motion is to approve the City of Frankfort Internet Funding Agreement.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Chuck made the motion, Belinda seconded. Is there any discussion? I appreciate the city's contribution. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. The next item is amend policies 03.122 and 03.222.
Under state law, there's a KRS 2.190. The presidential election day shall be a state holiday. Policy 03.122 and 03.222 are attached for your approval with the amendment adding the additional holiday in the year of a presidential election. Board Policy 01.5 allows an emergency reading to approve policies at the initial reading, and this emergency reading is intended to confirm that policy in a timely manner. I'll speak about this further after we make the motion, but the recommended motion is to approve the amendment to policy 03.122 and 03.222.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Yep. And so basically, what we've had a policy that has been in place for a while, but it kind of conflicts just a little bit on presidential election years with 2.190. And so basically what we have to do is amend that policy to say during a presidential election year, we're adding in this additional day for employees that so they do not have to work on presidential election day. If we did not do that, there's a thing in 2.190 that says that we would have to pay compensatory pay, and that's something that school districts by law can't even do. So that's why Rebecca's been in contact with KSBA and has got the language from them that would bring our policies up to speeds, if you will, with that KRS.
Okay, is that just the general election?
It's for the presidential election year only. So whenever there's a presidential election year, we have to have that day as a holiday.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. The next, or motion carries. The next item is revised substitute teacher salary schedule.
One of the things in going back to school, even though we're now back to virtual, when we do go back, is we're having a very difficult time finding substitutes. In an effort to secure additional substitute teachers, we are requesting the temporary approval of an additional $50 per day payment for substitute teachers who accept assignments. This increase would be in effect until December 31st of this year. And then we would come back to the board and reassess if we would need to do anything further. I can speak further to this again after the motion. The recommended motion is to approve the revised substitute teacher salary schedule as presented.
All right, Ryan. Yeah, I'm okay. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I think the second is Justin.
Was that Justin? Okay. Okay. So Mark, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Every school district in the state is kind of facing this problem right now. Last year, as you remember, we put in an incentive for our substitutes that helped in terms of the number of days that they would work. And last year, we had around 90 substitute teachers hired. And so when you have a very difficult day, when you get into the 20s, 25 teachers that you have to cover, when you have 90 subs, you feel a little bit better about your chances to do that. Well, this year we have in the range of 30 some subs that have been hired. And when we were back this past week, there were a couple of days when we had 10 and 11 absences. And in one of those cases, 5 of those went uncovered. It's been challenging not just to get subs, but then also to get subs to work. For the salary that we pay, it's not a bad salary, but in a time of a pandemic, we're just trying to come up with some way that would incentivize it further. So, in speaking with some other districts, I know some other districts are doing some similar things. Scott County is one of those. We feel that if we just up their pay through these next couple of months, maybe we can A, attract more, and B, get more of them to work if there are outages. And that's one of the things that we haven't really talked a whole lot about with this, the issue of going back to in-person is the substitute issue. So we're just trying to kind of head off anything at the past before it becomes an issue for us.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes.
Isn't there a stipulation that if a sub, they have to work so many days before they can take a day off? Is that correct?
No, that is not. No.
There is I wish I knew that policy about that.
There is a stipulation about that incentive that we put in last year, that they have to work so many days before they get that extra bump in their salary.
But do we really think that's fair, though, that with times like it is, and maybe that sub has a child that's ill and they have to take off, or maybe they actually need a mental health day? I'm not sure I really feel like that's fair, that a sub can't take off in order to, during that, I think it's a 10-day period, that they can't be bumped up to that initial.
Oh.
Is there any way that we can take a look at that policy and maybe rescind it? Or
No, absolutely. And to your point, that's kind of why we're thinking we put this forward for you to consider tonight. This extra $50 per day would start on day one as soon as they're hired, and no matter how many days they would work, we would just bump them up to this because of the pandemic. Yeah.
Because it was my understanding that they had to work the full 10 days without taking any time off before that they got that bump. Well, with the times in which we're living, I'm not sure that that's a fair thing to ask, especially if that substitute, and most do, have children. And those kids get sick, and then that's negated their ability to get that bump and increase. So
we will look at that, and we'll bring that back to you for the December board meeting here in a couple of weeks. Yep.
Fair enough. Good deal.
All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. The next item is construction turf field project pay app.
Attached for your review and approval is pay app number 5 to O'Heal Site Solutions for the turf field project in the amount of $18,550. This is the last pay app. This will close this project out. The recommended motion is to approve pay app number 5 to O'Heal Site Solutions as presented.
All right. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right. Everybody in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think that was everybody. All right, motion carries. The next item is turf field BG4 documents.
And to close the project out, attached for your review and approval are the BG4 closeout documents for the turf field projects. Recommended motion is to approve the BG4 closeout documents for the turf field projects.
All right. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions? All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. The next item is Fieldhouse Pay App.
Attached for your review and approval is a pay app for the WHHS Fieldhouse in the amount of $56,772.21. And we're getting near the end of this project as well. The recommended motion is to approve the Western Hills High School Fieldhouse Pay app as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. I think Chuck moved and Justin seconded it. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. How much did that end up costing us altogether? For some that wasn't supposed to cost us very much. How much did it end up costing?
Yeah, I think in this document, I think it's $198,000 that's on this attachment that I've just clicked the wrong one on. Sorry. I think it's 198. John, Mr. Fields is on the call. Is that accurate, John?
That is accurate for that pay app, but as far as the total cost, that would have to be a number that Shane Smith would have to run for us to get an accurate number.
Well, let's do that
Shane,
for the
can we
next
use
board
that
meetings.
number for the field house at Western Hills?
Yeah, I can look that up and bring that to our next meeting.
All right, that'd be good.
It should be somewhere
Thank you.
around $2 million.
Not for the field house.
Larry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No.
All right. Yeah, that was for the turf. I forget.
No.
Well, the
All right.
field house wasn't cost us much at all, and now it's turned out that it is. So anyway, that's another subject. So
All right. All in favor of the superintendent's motion indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
I heard at least three. All right. Motion carried. Next item is reports to the board.
First one is personnel actions taken since the last meeting of the board are presented for your information only.
All right. Reports from school councils.
Draft minutes from the school site-based decision-making councils are presented for your review.
And superintendent report.
Oh, we just love to talk about back to school, so we might as well use some time here and talk about back to school. You know, we had a good week last week. I was very proud of our teachers, of our staff members, of our kids, and of our parents. They did a fantastic job all week long. And as we've seen, that really started towards the middle of last week, the numbers statewide and in the country, for that matter, have just skyrocketed to where we have, you know, nearly a majority of districts in the state are in the red. We went from making the decision when we were at 10.6 cases per 100,000 per day to jumping up over 19. I think the number's back to 18.8 today, still quite high in the orange. And again, according to our plan, we had stated that if we would be in orange or in red, we would be virtual. And that's why we made the decision that we made last week. And we've learned a lot throughout this process. It is challenging to, as we've said, we don't want to go back and forth, but we also have to think about safety first. Every decision that we make. There had been nearly all districts had gone back to in-person. There were about 10 districts that have not. Of those that have gone back to in-person as of last week, 50 of those districts have gone back to virtual because of the rising numbers. And we were one of those districts for this week. I will tell you that from my perspective, just from my, analysis of it, is if we can continue to stay as consistent to that data and to the chart and making a database decision, we're going to be in good shape. We also know how passionate people are, and we know how much our kids need to be in school. And so the hope is, and this is something that the governor met with all superintendents last week and asked us to ask our communities to please follow the guidance that's been issued so that we can get our kids back in school and keep them in school. Please consider if we do shoot up into the red, which is a very real possibility in our district, please consider as a community to adopt the recommendations that the governor has submitted for red counties. And that's really all I wanted to say about that. But I'll answer any questions you have, and I know our board members, I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about this and share your input. That's I'm really, I welcome it. So I'm going to mute myself just for a little bit and let you guys talk.
Hey, Mark, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I visited a few of the schools last week, and you talk with teachers, talk with parents. I talked to principals in those schools. The parents are very excited. They was talking, several that said that their children was at home. They was grouchy. They couldn't get along. They was just moping all the time. They said when they came home after that first day that they come in and they was just totally different children. They was just had a positive outlook, was wanting to share about their day. They was very excited. And I talked to several people that was talking about, some of these students, all these students staying at home. There was a couple of suicide attempts in our high schools. And so that was something that with the depression coming in and different things is stuff that I was concerned about. But the teachers said it was challenging, but when they could see the smiles and the excitement in these kids' face, they said it was worth it. So I was very excited to talk to these teachers and reach out in these schools to see. This morning I went over to Scott County, reached out to them. They was going full-fledged today. Now they have jumped into the red a couple of times or what have you, but they're running full classrooms. Talked to one teacher over there. Normally they have 30 in a classroom. They was running about 25 in a classroom. So they're not doing the hybrid motion like we do, but Scott County is running full steam ahead. But I just kind of wanted to report that because I wanted to go out and talk, as Paul Harvey says, I wanted to find out the rest of the story from the teachers and the parents and the folks out in the community.
Well, isn't Second Street still going? And they should have the same numbers we do.
They're not. They have not started back yet. They're doing small groups. So they're bringing in small groups for a limited number of hours at a time. We actually have been doing that since August. So we're still doing that. We'll still be doing that this week. Well,
I think there are a lot of confusion out there about the numbers and the points. And is it 16.1 or 17.1? Can you elaborate on that, Mark, and give us a better understanding of and how those numbers relate to red? And I mean, these, like Larry said, Scott County's on red and they're still going. I think people are really confused about it. And frankly, I am too. So if you could elaborate on that and give us more detail about how that relates, I think it might help people better understand.
Yeah. And we've shared this information many times, and we have a plan that's on our website that kind of details this this chart, this color-coded chart. The Department of Public Health put this information out. Oh, good. Rebecca's sharing it. Thank you. And this is the one that the Department of Public Health put out. So on orange, which is where we are right now, that is when you're having anywhere from 10 to 25 cases per day. Those are new cases every day per 100,000 people. So in that, we're to consider remote learning only. That's the guidance that's recommended by the Department of Public Health. If you get up into the red, you really should only absolutely be doing remote learning. And then it's also, you cancel sports. There's several things that when you get to red, again, according to the Department of Public Health, there you see suspend all school-related athletic activities, etc. So when we talk about wanting to be in the yellow or green, that's where if we can get down to around that 10 cases per 100,000 per day, that's where we start seeing less of an impact. So when we made the call to go back, we were at 10.6, which was, yes, it was in orange, but it was just barely into orange. And then it went up to 12. And again, still just barely in orange. So we considered all of these things. As soon as it jumped up to 17, 18, 19, now we're going in the wrong direction. And just so we all know, and I'm not going to get into a lot of specifics, but we've had one of our departments here at central office that now is in quarantine, the entire department, for the next 2 weeks because of one positive case. We had one of our athletic teams just this weekend at one of our schools. We had one athlete that tested positive, and both of these athletic teams at a middle school have now been quarantined. So this is one of those things where if there are many more cases that come about, the chances of us getting positive cases amongst our students is high. And then, of course, with contact tracing, the chances of quarantines occurring is obviously very high. It happened this week. So none of this is an easy thing for us to do. We just have to look at mitigating the risk to our students and our staff versus the absolute reward that we know exists when students are in person. There's no question that that's the best place for all of us. But we do have to consider all of those other pieces. And that's what this chart, it really does help us do. And this is what the governor has asked us to do, in the Department of Public Health is to follow this as best we can. In all honesty, it would be a lot easier if the Department of Public Health, once you got to red, would just come in and say this is what's going to happen. They are not going to do that, though, and the governor isn't either. So that does leave an enormous burden on us to make those decisions.
I don't understand, though, why, if we're playing sports and kids are, why are we not in the classroom? I don't understand that. They've not shut down the sports. And to me, that sends a message that, honestly, athletics are more important than academics. And I'm sorry to see that. I really am. I think if we're going to shut down everybody, then shut down the whole kit and caboodle, which I know parents are going to be upset, and I would be too. I'd much rather have the kids back in school. And I'm like Larry. The calls that I've been getting, people said their children were thrilled to be back in the classroom. They loved it. And it made all the difference in the world. And when they found out that we're going to go back into virtual learning, they were absolutely disappointed and crushed over it. And I understand that.
That makes me nervous when Belinda says she's like me.
Yeah, I do agree with you on this. And you and I fought pretty hard initially on this. But
Right.
I have to say, Larry, you were right. I mean, so I just don't understand why we're allowed to do sports, but we can't do classroom and we can't educate our kids. I'll never understand that.
Well, when I've looked at it from a sports standpoint, there's a small, a pretty good group of kids, but they are monitored very closely. Just like with fall break, they was told, if you go on fall break, you'll be quarantined for 14 days. You will not be allowed to play in a game or anything. So those kids, elected not to go on, a fall break somewhere, take off on vacation. So there's probably a little more control of those kids being older, than it is for younger kids. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or indifferent. I'm just giving some scenarios there why.
Well,
Well,
I don't know.
I just like to say that I've heard the coaches talk, and they have to go through a lot. And I appreciate, again, I'll say it again, that they came to our Kiwanis Club. We had 2 coaches come to our Kiwanis Club to educate our people what they have to go through. And it's unimaginable with CDC requirements, but they have to go through a lot. And I'll say this, my grandson plays on one of the teams, and that was his choice. It was not that he had to play, but it was his choice that he wanted to play. And that's a choice if you want to play sports. But I admire the coaches and what they're doing. Our folks said that they really enjoy understanding more by educating them of what they have to go through and the techniques that they have to play before they're able to play football. But then I also talked to some people from Scott County. Teachers there are scared to death. They are very scared. They know that their kids got positive. They came back positive from the COVID-19. They know the names, but they don't know who all has it. They're scared to death. And they feel like the teachers there feel like they're in danger because they're in a situation that nobody knows what's going on. And teachers are scared to death of what's going on. So I think our teachers I'm just going to be honest with you. I think we have a lot of teachers in our district are scared to death. And I want kids to go back to school too. I want my grandkids to go to school. I want them to be in school. But we also have to realize there's issues out there that's very dangerous. When I get all these letters from teachers about their concerns